What if you woke up one day and found yourself as a background character in the very world you created? That's exactly what happened to our male lead, a web novel author. The world he built in his story is facing the apocalypse. Towers and dungeons appeared out of nowhere, spawning monsters. They attacked humanity and pushed the world to the brink of destruction. The most notorious place is the Korean Peninsula, a region where towers and dungeons appear endlessly. It's also known as hell because the monsters here are far more savage than in any other country. They ruthlessly attacked, taking thousands of unfortunate lives. But in the darkness, the light shines the brightest, born in absolute brilliance. In this world, those rays of light are called heroes. Thanks to their power, South Korea was able to fight back against the monsters, gradually taking control of the towers and dungeons. By using the industries built around this disaster as a driving force, they recovered from the crisis. As time passed, South Korea became a powerhouse competing for the top spot with the US, while simultaneously becoming a beacon where heroes from all over the world gathered. It also became the ultimate stronghold preventing the proliferation of monsters and dungeons. They also established a hero academy based on magical arts and magical engineering called Cube. Cube gathers hero cadets from all over the world who have passed the association's impossibly strict selection criteria. It's also the place where the hero who will save the world in the novel, along with his sworn rival, coexist. That's the basic setting of the story the author created right at the Academy's admission period. Standing at the top among the first-year cadets is Kim Suho, the male lead of this novel. The students entering Cube this year are all incredibly outstanding, but among them, Kim Suho is beyond imagination for a 17-year-old kid. Well, he's the main character anyway, so it's only natural for the author to make him overpowered. Suho will be the one to lead this chaotic era dominated by heroes and monsters. He possesses the traits of a righteous hero, holding on to kindness and justice. At the same time, he hides a secret from the eyes of others. Where there's a male lead, there's a deuteragonist. Where there's a hero, there's a villain. The one who will face off against Suho is the second-ranked cadet, Shin Jong-hak, the fourth-generation heir of the Jinsung conglomerate. He possesses the potential to challenge the main character, but in the future, he will become a villain and a loyal follower of elitism. Right now, Jong-hak might just be a cadet, but later in the novel, his inferiority complex towards Suho will turn him evil. Light and darkness will once again clash and conflict with each other. That's the story of the two main characters, the center of the novel's world that the author created. But ironically, fate played a cruel joke on the father of this novel. Usually, when someone transmigrates, they become the main character or at least a prominent supporting role. Who would have thought our guy would be so unlucky, transmigrating into a background character with nothing but a generic, lame name like Kim Chun-dong, with absolutely zero background information. He couldn't even recognize his own face, which just had a giant question mark on it. The author really hit the jackpot of bad luck, becoming a character he hadn't even created in his own work. With no character design and an outdated name, his presence was smaller than a grain of sand. An incredibly ordinary character among the ordinary, with absolutely zero connection to the main duo. It seemed like this guy was only created to meet the word count quota. A sideline character of the novel who couldn't be any more irrelevant. It all started on a beautiful day when the author of the novel, Kim Ha-jin, received a strange email. It offered to remake his novel, The Returned Hero, to satisfy their own personal tastes. But because he ran out of ideas, Ha-jin had already dropped the novel. Normally, dropped works like that are ignored by most people, so this remake request left Ha-jin a bit puzzled. He wrote a polite email declining the offer, not knowing it would become the main reason for everything happening right now. It's been 2 weeks since Kim Ha-jin transmigrated into the novel as Kim Chun-dong. The giant question mark was still stuck on his unrecognizable face, but at least he had gotten used to it. This place really wasn't a dream. It was the exact world Ha-jin had written, and Kim Chun-dong was just one of the countless background characters in it. Over the past 2 weeks, Ha-jin had tried many ways but still couldn't figure out how he got here, who left him here, and why. He might have to stay in this world for a very long time. Maybe a year, 2 years, or if it follows the story's timeline, about 10 years. Living 10 years in a novel with a question mark on his face, just thinking about it made Hajin feel a chilling, depressing gloom. The real world out there was so fun, happy, comfortable, and beautiful. Hajin really didn't want to bury his life and just scrape by in this discontinued novel. It felt helpless just thinking about it, but right now he had no choice. The only way was to try and stick to the main plot to find a way out of this world. If he could make it to the middle of the plot, the rest would just be the events after he dropped it. There was no other way but to live through it. And to do that in the world of the returned hero, the first step Hajin needed to take was to go to school. Cube is actually an artificial island located in the East Sea, home to about 50,000 people, including hero cadets. It's a city gathering talented individuals in magic and production from all over. And Cube, the Hero Training Academy, is one of the reasons South Korea is called a powerful nation. It's the core of the city and the main stage of the novel. Cube's admission criteria are extremely high and strict among hero candidates with special abilities and talents. Only a small fraction can become cadets at Cube. Despite being a background character, the original owner of this body, Kim Chun-dong, was also a Cube cadet, so he wasn't a complete nobody. It's just that Hajin still didn't know what his abilities were. Today, he arrived at the classroom of truth. Hajin opened the door and stepped into the room. This was the center of Cube's chain of events, the place that housed the villains and rivals, allies, enemies, and even the main characters of this novel. Each character faction would soon be divided into groups. And because of that, they would face a lot of events. Just thinking about having to live for 10 years with these people without even having a proper face made Hajin feel incredibly depressed. Returning to the dorm that afternoon, Hajin was so exhausted he didn't even know how the day had passed. Suddenly, he noticed a strange package from Cube Delivery sitting on his desk. Curious, Hajin peeled off the tape to see what was inside, and to his absolute surprise, inside was the exact laptop Hajin used in his real world. He picked it up, bewildered as to why it was here. Suddenly, the screen lit up with the words, "Synchronization starting." The light from the screen was so blinding that Hajin let go, dropping the laptop. The laptop continued to display the synchronization with Kim Hajin. Looking at the command tabs and control panels popping up, Hajin couldn't believe his eyes. It was the exact setting book he had written. Hajin wondered who could have sent this to him. He reached out to check it, and right at that moment, the synchronization was almost complete. The laptop screen suddenly turned off, and a control panel appeared. Acquired setting intervention privilege. Hajin felt as if his body was shattering into pieces right then. The light gradually faded, and the system displayed that the synchronization was successful. Kim Chun-dong had transformed into Kim Hajin. All data would be synchronized. Kim Hajin slowly opened the laptop. The reflection left him stunned. Isn't this my real face? Kim Hajin looked in bewilderment at the virtual screens floating around him, thinking, what's going on? And what are these things? He muttered blankly, don't tell me. Before he could finish, a virtual screen popped up with the text, synchronization complete. Hajin was skeptical. An enlightenment. The awakening phenomenon occurs when a person surpasses their limits. In this world, it's called enlightenment. Following enlightenment, they can see their talents, skills, abilities, and many other values. They can also grow stronger through a much more efficient method. Simply put, they can see their status window. At the same time, the system screen displayed his status, Kim Hajin. Current SP, 100. Current SP, 100. Name changed from Kim Chun-dong to Kim Hajin. Synchronization complete. Kim Chun-dong's initial state converted to 10 SP. Stats include variable stats, strength 1.2, stamina 1.3, agility 1.5. Talents include observation and reading. Proficiency and settings are both 0/3. Out of curiosity, Kim Hajin clicked on the talents section. Talent, observation, and reading. Observation can observe people who appear in your line of sight. Reading can read the laptop setting panel anytime without an intermediary. Proficiency, settings, and stats are all 0/3. Variable stats, strength 1.2, stamina 1.3, agility 1.5, intelligence 2, vitality 1.3, magic 1. Invariable stats, intelligence 4,105 tenths, Perseverance 5.01/10, Luck 6.33/10, Charm 4135/10. The long list of information left him a bit surprised. Then, Hajin scrolled through the system panel and muttered, "For now, I'll just check them regularly." Looking at the information about the synchronization from Kim Chundong to Kim Hajin being complete and Kim Chundong's initial state converting to 10 SP, he thought with great interest, "The part that catches my attention the most is synchronization and initialization." Kim Hajin pondered coldly, "I don't know what they are, but it's definitely the reason why my face is no longer a question mark and has returned to normal. My stats have dropped compared to Kim Chundong's, but in return, I got SP." Thinking of this, he immediately shifted his gaze to the system panel. And the next thing to note is, at the same time, the system also displayed the Setting Intervention Unique Privilege panel. You can use SP to write or modify any non-living target. You can use SP to write or modify stats, talents, proficiencies, and settings. Restriction: target Kim Hajin. SP: story points. The more important Kim Hajin is to the world, the more SP you receive. You can convert 1 SP into 1,000 SP. Newbie consideration: you can write 1 talent by consuming 10,000 SP. Reading that text, Kim Hajin felt a bit dizzy and muttered, "What the hell is this?" Glancing at the last few lines, he was a bit speechless and whispered, "I don't remember ever writing this ability." The more important Kim Hajin is to the world. Speaking of this, Kim Hajin suddenly froze. His eyes widened in shock. "Don't tell me. I have to increase my own importance in the novel?" Recalling the dangers he had faced, Kim Hajin gradually realized the problem. "The reason I was given this laptop and this weird ability is to intervene in the main plot of the world." He cursed inwardly. What an unrealistic theory. However, right at that moment, a blinding light suddenly appeared behind him. It turned out to be the system with a notification. Information temporarily locked. Will be unlocked when the main plot ends. Seeing those words, Kim Hajin was so furious his mouth twitched. "So you're saying, if I want to find hints on how to return to my old world, I need to shut up and get involved?" Saying that, he pulled out a chair and sat down at the desk. Kim Hajin typed on the laptop while thinking, "That's right. There's no guarantee I'll be sent back to my original world even if I just sit and wait until the part where I stop publishing." The images of the characters in the novel suddenly flashed through his mind, making his assumption even more solid. Even if the unlocked information isn't the hint I want, I might accidentally pick up clues on how to escape this world if I get involved with the main characters. Kim Hajin told himself seriously to do that. Right then, the system screen popped up. Consume SP on stats? Yes/no. He didn't hesitate to click yes. I have to become strong enough to change the main plot. There's no leveling system in my novel. Basically, because a person can't just increase their stats at will. The only way to do so is through SP, an incredibly precious resource. And if I want to gather as much SP as possible, I need to invest in luck. Thinking of this, the word luck seemed to dance in Kim Hajin's head. He stroked his chin in deep thought. Luck isn't just limited to the chance of finding unidentified rewards in dungeons. Luck creates effects, makes money, gives bonus stats, builds multidimensional relationships, etc. It's a cheat stat applied to every aspect of life. While thinking, his eyes caught the line. Can convert SP into 1,000 SP. Kim Hajin wondered coldly. Of course, an invariable stat like luck can't be increased with SP. But maybe it's possible if I convert SP into SP. Without overthinking it, he immediately hit the keyboard. Might as well try, right? Right after, the system popped up a notification. You have converted 10 SP into 10,000 SP. Next came a series of stats popping up. Invested 9,000 SP into luck. Invariable stats. Intelligence 4,105 tenths. Perseverance 5.01/10. Luck 6.33/10 changed to Luck 6.33/10. Charm 4135/10. He thought that was it, but at that moment, the system suddenly appeared with a purple screen in the middle. A mysterious luck has occurred. Kim Hajin was a bit surprised by this sudden notification. Then, the system popped up another text. A mysterious luck has occurred. Changed luck to 9.1. He was a bit thoughtful seeing this notification. Luck even affects itself? Saying that, Kim Hajin immediately fell into deep thought. The main character Kim Suho has a magic stat of 9.0. That's a desirable result. Thinking of this, Kim Hajin typed rapidly on the keyboard while calculating, I'll just invest the remaining SP into perseverance. After all, I need to endure Cube's grueling training. And so, the system popped up a new congratulatory message. A massive luck has occurred. Perseverance increased from 6.6 to 7207. Replaced. He forced a smile and praised, luck really is God. However, right at that moment, the screen displaying the information suddenly glitched. Right after that, a warning popped up on the screen, detected an error that could negatively affect the plot. This sight immediately made Kim Hajin jump and scream. After his frantic scream, a highly threatening notification was sent. From now on, invariable stats cannot be modified using SP. Looking at the screen in front of him, Kim Hajin's mood plummeted to rock bottom. He clenched his fists and muttered dejectedly, "That's not a fair move at all." After a few minutes of grumbling, Kim Hajin leaned his head back in frustration and complained, "Looks like cheating has its limits. I thought everything was going smoothly, but at least I managed to change luck and perseverance." Speaking of this, a thought suddenly popped into his head. Come to think of it, remembering the previous status line, Kim Hajin whispered, "I still have another 10,000 SP from the newbie consideration." Saying that, he fell into a stunned silence, starting to question his life choices. After a moment of hesitation, Kim Hajin finally sighed helplessly and muttered, "Maybe I should think carefully before using it." The next morning, a booming voice echoed through the classroom. "You all worked hard during this morning's training." Kim Hajin sat bored, resting his chin on his hand, listening to the guy's introduction. "Now, I will introduce myself." The teacher started giving a brief overview of his background. "My name is Kim Suhyuk. I will be your homeroom teacher for the coming year." Suhyuk's steady voice continued. Rank points, 3,850. Ranked 9,737th worldwide. The students below were all buzzing at this information. Rank 9,000? Out of 2 million? He's amazing. I've never seen him before. Ignoring the noise, the teacher slowly continued. As for the comprehensive classification, it's high intermediate, rank 5. After briefly introducing himself, Suhyuk scanned the room and spoke up. That concludes the introduction. Now let's start with the matters at hand. The teacher began his lecture. Cube isn't the magical place you expect it to be. You will be strictly ranked by your grades. And if you can't perform properly, you will be held back. In practice, less than half of the cadets graduate without repeating a year. Below, Rachel Elizabeth Louise was still listening intently. This place is a hero-producing factory. You will be evaluated on precise and rigorous standards. At this point, Suhyuk suddenly became more intense than ever. He ordered loudly, "Now, everyone stand up and follow me." And so, the first part of the schedule, choosing your main weapon. A moment later, in a dark room with only a faint light from the control panel scanning a hand. After a few seconds, the door in front of them suddenly opened, leaving the students and Kim Hajin somewhat amazed. At this moment, what caught their eyes was a massive room filled with all kinds of weapons. From sharp, gleaming swords neatly placed in cabinets, to weapons that required the user's physical strength, like spears and halberds. Witnessing this scene, soft gasps of awe echoed around. While they were marveling at the scale of the armory, everyone jumped at the teacher's loud shout. "I never gave you time to be amazed. Hurry up and choose your weapons." Everyone quickly went to pick the weapon they were interested in. Meanwhile, Suhyuk was still lecturing. Once you choose your main weapon, you cannot change it for at least 6 months. So choose wisely. While everyone was racking their brains, Kim Suho quickly picked up the pitch-black sword from earlier. He seemed extremely satisfied with this main weapon. Elsewhere in the room, a bow lined with red velvet was being drawn and aimed. It turned out to be Chai Nayun. She seemed to really like this long-range weapon. At the same time, Rachel had also picked out her favorite weapon. She was intently admiring the sword in her hand. All around, the group of students had chosen their preferred weapons. Yu Yona casually picked up a whip. Kim Hajin stood to the side, observing everything while thinking coldly. The main characters have smoothly chosen their weapons. Then he immediately looked down at the weapon cabinet under his hand. Now it's my turn. Kim Ha-jin's eyes darted back and forth among the countless weapons. He reminded himself inwardly, I have to be careful. Looking at the two sharp weapons, he felt a bit of regret. My stats are too low to master the weapons used by cadets. Kim Ha-jin's gaze shifted elsewhere as he sighed. Even if I increase my stats to try and use them, the results will still be far lower than the effort put in. So there are a few fixed conditions for my weapon choice. He walked around observing the weapons while thinking, a weapon I used in my old world. A weapon that takes little time to get used to. And then Kim Ha-jin's footsteps suddenly stopped. He rejoiced inwardly. Here it is. At the same time, another student noticed his actions. After a few seconds of shock, he turned to gossip. Look at him. Following his gaze, everyone whispered in shock. What the? Is he joking? This commotion quickly caught Soo-hyuk's attention. When the teacher saw the scene with his own eyes, a hint of horror flashed in his eyes. After a moment, he hesitantly spoke up, Cadet Kim Ha-jin. Looking at the gun in his hand and his innocent face, Soo-hyuk was a bit speechless and asked, Is that the weapon you chose? Everyone had finished choosing their weapons and was gathering to be called by name. The instructor, after reading through the submitted files, suddenly called out loudly, Cadet Kim Ha-jin. I remember you used a sword at the military academy. He held the gun firmly in his hand and replied casually, I've made my decision. The instructor still asked doubtfully, after coming to Cube? He replied firmly, yes. Despite being full of doubt, teacher Soo-hyuk had to accept his choice. All right, all decisions at Cube are made by the cadets. Suddenly, he shouted loudly, whether the decision is right or wrong, the cadets will bear full responsibility. Never forget that. Ha-jin seemed to be listening very intently to everything. Suddenly, the noise from the other cadets caught his attention. The crowd started whispering about the weapon he chose. Is he crazy? Why did he come to Cube if he was going to choose a gun? I don't get it. Should I beat him up during combat practice? Isn't he just a glory hound? Even so, it didn't really affect his decision. He thought to himself, a magic gun is still a good weapon in this world. For civilians, people who can't fight against magic. The most frequently used ammo is magic bullets. Because they're filled with mana, they have relatively high destructive power compared to regular metal bullets. Despite its strengths, the reason magic guns are avoided here is because a bullet with terrifying destructive power can be blocked immediately after being fired. The red-haired cadet charged forward like a beast, smashing the newly fired bullet. Its limitations are very clear. After completing a series of actions, the instructor over there shouted, Cadet China-yun. Kim Ha-jin. He continued to explain the difficulties. The first main reason is that no matter how strong the user is, the gun's destructive power is still limited. And the second reason is that the gun has a short history. In this world, myths and legends become reality. Mythical and legendary artifacts are used as armaments in reality. And the more illustrious the origin and the deeper the history of the item, the higher the weapon's tier. Because of this, cadets usually choose older weapons over modern ones. They don't just rely on magic bullets, but also on their skills. Even if they reach their limits, they can still use the power of their armaments to take another step forward. After skimming through the overview of guns, Ha-jin gave a deadpan look, feeling that they were really troublesome. Brushing off all responsibility, he thought, of course, this has nothing to do with me. He strode down the hallway, passing the line of people while calculating in his head, acting like I'm the main character in a manhwa. I haven't even held a sword before, so how can I compare to the other cadets? Looking at the briefcase held firmly in his hand, he couldn't help but have his own thoughts. A gun might not be a bad choice. It's something I can use immediately, and by using it, I can stand out to get SP. Ha-jin's face suddenly turned serious. He looked as if he was about to enter a new battle. Ha-jin thought to himself, since I've chosen my weapon, now it's time to choose a talent. To explain, a talent, it's an ability that can be considered special. A sword, thanks to a talent, can easily slice through a giant boulder. He explained, each person can only get one talent, but some characters are exceptions. There are passive talents and active talents. The owner of the holy sword. The next name was called out loudly, Kim Soo-ho. A boy, upon hearing his name called, quickly ran forward. The person who called him was a girl. Seeing her, he spoke up and asked, China-yun, you train here too? In response, the girl quickly complained about Suho's question, why else would I be at the training center? The guy at the top of the class. He replied sheepishly, there aren't many people after class, so I came here. After chatting for a bit, he suddenly remembered something and leaned in to ask Nayun. I just remembered something after seeing you. We have another sharpshooter in our class. Hearing his question, she tried to recall, sharpshooter? Hajin? Or something. Hesitating for a moment, she said, alright, that guy. Suddenly, Nayun's expression changed unusually. Her eyebrows furrowed in annoyance. Seeing this, he asked, what's with that reaction? She quickly retorted, that guy Hajin, or whatever. I can't accept him. You can't call him a sharpshooter when his range is less than a kilometer. Suddenly, she sighed and said as if it were a matter of course, he probably gave up on becoming a hero. Since he can't drop out if he retires early, he's just trying to hang on longer. Suddenly, Suho interrupted her. Him giving up? You can't say that so easily. He spoke intently. Nayun looked back at him in confusion, like he was some weird creature. Even so, Suho still smiled back at her gaze, like a good cat waiting to be pet. Suddenly, she angrily yelled right in his face, don't tell me what to do. Kim Suho, getting yelled at out of nowhere, awkwardly replied, sorry. Nayun's shout echoed throughout the training room. If you're not going to train, get out of here. Switching to Hajin, the guy who was just being gossiped about behind his back. His ears felt itchy. He rubbed his ear and thought, is someone talking about me? I think I can add talking behind my back in SP2. He leisurely stared at the laptop screen in deep thought. In any case, since the main character can become the greatest hero with his talent, that's how important a talent is. And because I get 10,000 SP when I write my first talent, I can't miss this opportunity. On the laptop screen, a notification popped up, intervention privilege. Can modify/write skills or items. Can modify/write stats or talents. Using the privilege consumes SP. When creating the first talent, 10,000 SP will be provided. Right after that, Hajin immediately got to work. First, I should write something simple, right? After some editing, the text on the laptop changed. Talent, Master Sharpshooter. Excels at using long-range weapons. After he clicked confirm, another notification immediately popped up. You have used 10,000 SP to write a talent. Staring intently at the constantly changing laptop screen, he couldn't help but feel surprised. He marveled inwardly, so it automatically edits itself like that. The system panel was immediately modified. Master Sharpshooter. Intermediate rank. Dark Element. Evolution Proficiency, 10 points. Experience Proficiency, 0%. Bullet Time. In combat, every 4 hours, a total of 3 seconds of bullet time will be granted. Master Sharpshooter Training. You are proficient in all long-range weapon skills. Clairvoyance. You can see distant moments and accurately predict the target's movements. Looking at the result in front of him, he felt extremely satisfied. All long-range weapon skills. So useful. Not just guns, I can also use bows in the future. Above all, it's a game-changing talent. It's a bit of a pity, but being able to develop it further is an advantage. Thinking long-term is better. After thinking for a while, he finally made a decision. Alright, I choose this one. After completing a series of actions, Hajin sat back comfortably in his chair and cheered happily. Now I feel more ready. Just thinking about all those talents made him feel exhausted. Now I have to survive with this talent until the main plot ends. Outside the city, the flow of people was incredibly bustling. Inside the large lecture hall, the professor was still enthusiastically explaining about dungeons. Small questions like this usually aren't given, but you need to understand the examples of tower and dungeon raids. Below, Hajin listened intently and took down the necessary notes. He marveled inwardly. A few lines of description can create a whole book. If the characters knew, they'd be crying out of jealousy. But since I have the observation and reading talent, I can easily pass this class. On the board, the professor was still intently lecturing about the new era, the name of the tower that Saint Apostle raided, and the reward they received. The system also updated some knowledge. Saint Apostle raided the Flood Tower and received the Ocean Stone. He continued thinking, just like the name says, observation and reading. I can observe all the characters in my line of sight. Hajin recalled the words of the people around him. Is that guy that good? He just relies on his talent. If I had a good talent. Hurry up and finish. Isn't Kim Suho a bit too flashy? Switching back to Kim Hajin. At this moment, His laptop was displaying the necessary information about this world. He calculated inwardly, and if I want to, even without the device, I can search the setting timeline from the notes on my retinas. The professor's voice rang out. Remember what you learned today. You know the written exam isn't far off, right? Looking around the classroom, he noticed Nayun was also taking this class. Waiting for just that, she dropped all her image and yelled in the middle of the class. Why do I have to study this kind of stuff? Don't I just need to show my skills in combat practice? The door was suddenly thrown open, cutting off Nayun's words. Another cadet walked in and announced loudly for everyone to hear, Veritas, you are ordered to gather at the plaza in 20 minutes. Hearing this, Nayun's face immediately lit up with excitement, like a cat spotting its prey. In another corner of the classroom, Jonghak and Yuyona also noticed the announcement. A voice rang out, it's combat training. Unlike the excited expressions of the others, Hajin's face seemed to darken. He thought dejectedly, it's finally here. Out in the plaza, a booming voice rang out. I hope everyone knows what this class is about. Without further ado, I will announce the team formations. Each team will have a total of 4 members. The formation will consist of 2 warriors, 1 sharpshooter, and 1 support. Unless special circumstances arise, these teams will remain the same until the midterm exams. The distribution will be fair, and both low-ranking and high-ranking cadets will be placed in the same team. Remember what I said to avoid any confusion. Everyone can go and check their teams. Soo-hyuk stood to the side, clearly shouting the rules for this test. Everyone looked up at the team assignment board. Hajin's pupils suddenly shrank. He was shocked by the team assignments this time. The announcement board for the 2 teams appeared. He screamed inwardly, no way. In the same team as that guy? Hajin's eyebrows furrowed. He couldn't believe this could happen. The announcement board showed Team 5, Kim Hajin, Yuyona. His eyes stared up at the board, stunned speechless. Yuyona is on my team? He recalled, just like in all novels, near the main character, there are always people who interact or conflict with him to push the plot forward. There are many members in the main cast. But among those members, Yuyona is definitely the most special. She is the main heir of South Korea's #1 guild, Essence of the Strait, and the successor of a prosperous family. At the beginning of the novel, she plays the role of opposing Kim Soo-ho, but gradually, she is influenced and becomes his dependent ally. Hajin still didn't take his eyes off Yuyona. He thought to himself, but the connection with Yuyona is very important. Because the more involved I am in the story, the more SP I gain. In today's training session, I definitely have to find a way to catch Yuyona's attention. Switching to Yuyona, a voice quickly caught her attention. Hello. 2 people approached to greet her. We're on the same team, right? One is Jin Hozung from Veritas, and the other is Hazuki from Veritas. She scrutinized the 2 of them for a moment, evaluating them inwardly. Teammates. Right. Don't ignore them. As soon as she identified her targets, Yuyona completely flipped her expression 180 degrees and smiled brightly to greet them. That's right. Please take care of me, Jin Hozung and Hazuki. Seeing Yuyona with this fake, sweet attitude overwhelmed the 2 of them. Hozung thought to himself, we're the same age, so why is she using honorifics? Looking around for a moment and only seeing 3 people, Yuyona spoke up and asked, where's the last member of our team? Hajin approached from out of nowhere, cutting off her words. That's me. She stared intently at the scruffy man in front of her and asked doubtfully, you are? Facing someone like Yuyona, he was extremely cautious, reminding himself, don't get tongue-tied. Yuyona hates guys who lack confidence the most. Before he could speak, the other 2 jumped in to introduce him. You're the one who chose a gun during the weapon selection, right? You're famous among all the first years. While they were busy chatting, they didn't notice teacher Soo-hyuk's figure approaching. Do you guys have time to chat? The teacher's sudden appearance almost gave all 3 of them a heart attack. He yelled, urging them, I've already sent the location of the monster each team has to face. Hurry up and get moving. They quickly responded, not daring to delay. Switching to the clear blue beach, 3 figures dashed by, running swiftly along the shore. They headed straight for the marked location in the middle of the sea ahead. Yuyona spoke to the other 3. Looks like we'll be there soon. Get ready. Once we get there, we'll be able to search for information about the monster. Far behind, Hajin seemed to be falling back. He slowly dragged his feet forward, thinking to himself, I'm dying. My vitality stat is already lower than a normal person's. But I didn't expect that following closely behind with such difficulty is the best I can do. Watching each person run swiftly forward without hesitation, he marveled inwardly. Is this the standard for cube cadets? Suddenly, Yuyona stopped. She told the people around her, "We're here. At beach training area number 8. Out at sea, a boat was drifting. Suddenly, a tentacle emerged from under the water, followed by a giant sea creature, a possessed monster, the black burl octopus. They smashed the drifting boat to pieces. The four of them watched the horrifying scene, unable to do anything. Yuyona broke the silence. Start planning for the mission. Low intermediate rank monster. Black burl octopus. The attack power of its main body isn't that high. But the problem is the burl on its head. When it senses danger, the black burl octopus will spawn baby octopuses from that burl to attack its enemies. Not only does it spew out dozens of bloody baby octopuses at once, but each one is so dangerous it can turn a normal person into a dried corpse in a second. Hozung interrupted Yuyona. Then, when the battle starts, we need to prioritize taking out the baby octopuses first. Hazuki beside him added. We need to quickly deal with them, so the shooter, Hajin. Before she could finish her sentence, Yuyona spoke up. No, I'll deal with the baby octopuses. The warriors will stay in the back and conserve mana. The black burl octopus's regeneration speed is very fast, so we need to sever the burl in one strike. The people around her gasped at what she just said. Hajin couldn't believe his ears. He was shocked. This just now. Is she trying to exclude me from the training session? Yuyona stepped forward and ordered the others. Is everyone ready? Her face turned serious as she shouted, "Let's start the mission." Seeing her act like this, he looked extremely fed up and thought, this bitch. The boat on the sea was gradually crumbling. It immediately shattered into pieces due to the impact of the tentacles. A loud noise rang out, catching its attention. Hozung was on the shore, constantly smashing his axe against the rocks to draw the octopus's attention. His face gradually grew anxious. He thought to himself, first, I have to lure it to the surface. The monster's pupils suddenly wavered. It dove underwater, creating a loud noise. Columns of water rose, obscuring their vision. It charged like a bullet toward him, then suddenly surfaced. It immediately grabbed Hozung. Team 5 Monster Subjugation Training. Everyone has a role. Hozung acts as bait. Hazuki attacks with her sword. Hajin attacks from long range. And Yuyona acts as the main damage dealer. Begin. This black burl octopus was indeed a tough opponent. It still hadn't been taken down and continued to launch its burl at them. In just a brief moment, a fierce explosion rang out right above its head, making Hozung jump even from a distance. But instead of fear, he felt a strange surge of excitement. It exploded? Hozung immediately retreated to keep his distance, his hand ready to grab the axe on his back. Soon enough, the black burl octopus launched smaller clones to attack him. Facing the overwhelming number of octopuses, Hozung wasn't foolish enough to charge in. He immediately turned and ran. But seeing them hot on his heels, his face turned pale, drained of all color. Just when it seemed Hozung would be killed right there, a powerful slash from Yuyona suddenly saved him from the peril. He had to admit, Yuyona was truly amazing. Her matrix-like slashes opened up a path of survival for him. Under her terrifying destructive power, the baby octopuses exploded like fireworks, leaving not even a speck of dust behind. After wiping them out, Yuyona stood tall and proud, completely unfazed by the black burl octopus. Witnessing this beauty-saving the hero moment, Hozung couldn't help but admire her. What terrifying strength! Yuyona's image appeared in his eyes, full of strength and bravery. Ranked 7th among cube cadets, Yuyona. Having been saved by her from the jaws of death, he was incredibly grateful. Thanks. Just when they thought the black burl octopus was defeated, it stubbornly prepared to launch a final, decisive strike. But dream on. Yuyona wouldn't give it another chance. She immediately lashed her whip forward. Her eyes were sharp, while the monster's body tensed up, exuding clear bloodlust. It was obvious the octopus had chosen to fight Yuyona to the bitter end. At this moment, neither side was willing to yield. In the blink of an eye, its agile tentacles slammed into the ground, twisting rhythmically like snakes, attacking her fiercely. In that intense moment, Yuyona managed to leap high into the air to dodge its dangerous tentacles. But it didn't stop there. The black burl octopus launched a part of its body at her, intending to use those sharp teeth to attack Yuyona. Seeing the lurking danger, Hazuki screamed out a warning, "Yuyona, watch out." Hearing her frantic cry, Yuyona was startled and quickly turned around. But it seemed too late. When it was only a short distance away from her, surprisingly, in that life or death moment, a bullet flew in from nowhere, destroying it in a flash. It seemed someone had used a gun to cover Yuyona from below, and that person was none other than Hajin. Although he didn't contribute much, he was always there during crucial moments. It was Hajin's quick and timely action that helped everyone hold off the black burl octopus. Yuyona never expected the person who just acted to be him, so she couldn't help but gape in astonishment. Kim Hajin. After coordinating perfectly with everyone to destroy the monster, he was extremely satisfied. SP can be converted into stat points. It will increase whenever Kim Hajin's role in this world becomes more important. It sounds easy, but getting there is a whole journey. But that's quite difficult for someone like me, a pure background character. To get a major role right from the start means I only have one choice: jump into the events the main character has to go through. And his recent action was also part of his plan. Right now, seeing Hajin appear here, Hazuki was also dumbfounded. Hozung was no exception, looking at him with utter shock. Kim Hajin. Yuyona, on the other hand, found his presence here particularly annoying. I told you to stay out of it. But while they were still bickering and out of formation, the hot-tempered black burl octopus aggressively advanced. It seemed it couldn't wait any longer and immediately launched its smaller clones to gang up on them. Facing their countless numbers, Yuyona grimaced like a monkey eating chili. What the hell? While everyone was still figuring out how to deal with it, Hajin remained completely still in one spot. The only thing the enemy targeted was a bunch of teammates. But that's no use. They have low intelligence and obvious trajectories. The only time I can shine. Realizing this was his time to take the stage, Hajin entered a state of intense focus. Now, in a split second, his eyes snapped open, his gaze as sharp as a knife. Bloodlust surged wildly, accompanied by a radiant blue aura, exuding immense power. Streaks of light tore through the wind. The bullet-time attack exploded with such terrifying speed and power that it seemed to distort space itself. Hajin's highlight was his speed. The talent I wrote is bullet time. When used, the flow of time slows down for 3 seconds. And thanks to this, he could almost gain the upper hand when facing them directly. Meaning, in those 3 seconds, I can easily see their movements. Thanks to that, Hajin could take them down before they even had a chance to react. The next part is very simple. I just need to shoot bullets at them. At this moment, he completely outclassed them and took control of the situation. In the remaining second, Hajin quickly gifted each one a bullet, logging them out instantly. Every movement of theirs had stopped, and this was the perfect opportunity for him to solo all of them. There was no room for hesitation. With only 27 seconds left, he went all out, firing the remaining bullets at them. For however much time was left, Hajin continuously reloaded with incredible speed. He aimed perfectly forward, because there wouldn't be any chance to fix mistakes. In the last 2 meager seconds, the ones near Yuyona were also completely wiped out by him. And when the 3-second countdown ended, the slow-motion state vanished, returning to real time. Before they could even touch a hair on their heads, Hajin had shot them all into oblivion. Yuyona hadn't even had a chance to lash her whip at them, and now there wasn't a single one left. They had all exploded. With her quick reflexes, she suddenly realized this was the perfect time to take down the black burl octopus. The burl on its head hadn't recovered from the previous damage, so this could be said to be its most vulnerable moment. Yuyona didn't hesitate to miss the opportunity and immediately swung her whip at it. And now, the burl on the octopus's head was wrapped tightly by her whip, leaving no escape. While Yuyona pulled the whip taut, she ordered everyone to take the chance and charge into attack. Everyone seemed to have been waiting for this moment for a long time and immediately leaped into the air toward it. Hozung smiled in sheer delight, finally able to put an end to this. And following him was Hazuki. She was also preparing to use all her strength for the final blow, releasing her magic power. With their weapons in hand, Everyone didn't hesitate to charge toward the top of the octopus's head. So they could finish it off quickly, Yuyona tried to hold it down for as long as possible. And finally, they did it. A clean slash was swung down. In just a split second, the black burl octopus was defeated. Seawater gushed out violently from it. No matter how fearsome the black burl octopus was, with their seamless teamwork, it had to face defeat. The moment it fell, a wave of water burst out everywhere, cooling the entire area under the sweltering heat. Hajin, after using all his skills, started to feel exhausted. Did we kill it? Yuyona remained as cold as ever. She didn't answer him, just sinking into silence. Now that everything was settled, he finally dared to lie down on the ground and relax. That was tough. Calculating Team 5's results. They successfully removed the octopus's burl and returned it to normal. Everyone's final result was completely worthy of the effort they put in. Team 5's total time is 58 minutes and 58 seconds. Current rank is 16th. Cleared the monster. Hajin lay on the ground, looking up tiredly. But at least he did it today. The notification board updated incredibly fast, displaying the results. Total time wasted, 58 minutes 58 seconds. Rank, 16 out of 100. But one notable thing was that their rank had skyrocketed impressively. You'd think they'd be satisfied with that result, but Yuyona was extremely disappointed, standing rooted to the spot. This time, the combat scenes were all recorded by drones. I'll send it to your smartwatches, and you can analyze it yourselves. It seemed her expectations were much higher, making this result unacceptable to Yuyona. She trembled with bitter resentment. Only 16th? I know individual performances will be evaluated separately, and the person she was glaring at with eyes full of jealous daggers was Chai Nayun. She even ranked higher than her. Chai Nayun. Team 2. Nayun and 3 others. Rank, 4,100. She felt utterly helpless that her efforts had been in vain. I decided to create a gap between my team and Nayun's team. I tried so hard to win, and this is all I get? Meanwhile, Jonghak, sitting next to her, was making eyes at Nayun. Even though they were separated by Yuyona, he still looked at her incredibly affectionately. After thinking it over, Yuyona still felt unsatisfied, a feeling of annoyance welling up inside her. She couldn't take this anger anymore and slammed her hand hard on the table. Then, Yuyona, exuding a murderous aura, marched aggressively toward Nayun. She stopped right behind her. The atmosphere became incredibly heavy. You'd think Yuyona was going to get physical with Nayun, but she pulled a massive U-turn and became friendly with her. Nayun. Oh, Yona. The two of them then chatted about each other's training progress. How's training? You did well, right? As you can see, I only got 6th. So embarrassing. What about you? Even though deep down Yuyona just wanted to eat her alive, outwardly, she tried to hold it in. I got 16th. Instead of acting pitiful, Nayun felt impressed. Yuyona, you got 16th with that deadweight. That's amazing. If that guy hadn't dragged you down, it would have been much better. Suddenly, hearing Nayun mention Hajin, she realized. Dragged down? Right. We wasted 50 minutes on a 10-minute route just because of that guy. But on the contrary, his contribution in the fight against the trailing monsters was high. Even though he was a bit useless at the start, he wasn't bad later on. Yuyona naturally couldn't forget that surreal moment. Dozens of squids that the monster shot out were completely destroyed by his bullets even before they hit the ground. After this joint mission, she also had a different view of Hajin. Just with normal magic bullets, he could do something like that? A suspicion began to rise in her heart. What is that guy? After that struggle with the black burl octopus, Hajin also needed to recover a lot of energy. After a vigorous training session, he collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily. Training area. Suddenly, while doing so, Hajin remembered something extremely important. I forgot to check my watch because I was too busy training. I wonder how much it went up. Luck has been activated. Thanks to the target being a low-rank monster, accuracy has increased significantly. All attacks successful. Proficiency increased by 20%. Intelligence increased by 0.03. Luck has been activated. Your eyes and ears seem to become sharper. SP has increased by 27. Everything ultimately went according to Hajin's original plan. It seems my luck activated right during today's training as expected. And SP went up a bit more too. Hindering Yuyona was definitely worth it. The stats gained from training are also quite significant. Like training, strength, stamina, and vitality increased by 0.02%. Surprisingly, mana seeping into muscle cells caused strength, stamina, and vitality increased by 0.03%, all thanks to the help of enlightenment and luck. Feeling that he had made significant progress today, Hajin decided to rest. I've gained this much. Let's stop here for today. But just a few seconds later, he asked himself, should I start again? That night, when the night sky had enveloped everything, a light still shone from Yona's room. Inside her small room, she still hadn't slept because she had some things to do. Yona sat on her chair with her arms crossed, looking incredibly serious, her eyes glued to the screen. It turned out she was rewatching the video of Hajin's shooting scene. Yona wanted to look closely at how he could shoot all of them in such a short amount of time. When she noticed something unusual in his attack pattern, she paused it. It seemed Yona had watched this video many times to be able to notice this detail. From 2.78 seconds to here, in just a split second, he fired 60 times. She raised her hand, making a gun shape, pointed it forward, and calculated a bit. Is pulling the trigger 20 times a second even possible? Or does that trigger finger have some kind of auto-fire button? Yona was determined to find out what allowed him to do that. His agility is truly extraordinary, but his vitality is weak compared to other cadets. And the fact that he suddenly changed weapons. There are too many suspicious points. Suddenly, while she was deep in thought, a notification arrived. Why don't I remember meeting him at the military academy? For whatever reason, late at night, Jonghak sent her a message. What are you doing? Reading that message from him, her maiden heart began to flutter. Yona didn't hesitate to reply to him. Analyzing my video. She's doing boring stuff again. Jonghak was standing in the middle of a pile of rubble, texting back and forth with her. If I'm going to take over the guild, I need to recruit some talents first. Does your team even have any talents? It's all trash. But what about that guy holding the gun? Reading up to here, Yona smiled slightly. Not knowing if it was genuine or fake, she chuckled and praised Hajin. He acts like he doesn't care about anything, but he actually cares more than you'd think. He's kinda cute sometimes too. Jonghak also rated his abilities quite highly. I guess he's alright. His skills barely rank 934th. Didn't he just get lucky to get into this group? After chatting with Jonghak, Yona switched back to serious mode. Lucky, huh? On a beautiful morning at the guild's headquarters, Yun Sung-ah's secretary was reminding her of her schedule. Vice Guild Master, the guild visit is scheduled for Friday, 2 weeks from today. But at that moment, there was another issue that caught her attention more. Alright, more importantly, look at this. The image displayed on Yun Sung-ah's large screen was none other than Suho. Isn't Kim Suho amazing? His impressive demeanor and skills left her completely mesmerized. Movements as elegant as water, and a sword style completely unlike any modern swordsmanship. Yun Sung-ah was simply captivated by Suho's refreshing combat style. It's like he's dancing with his sword. She highly appreciated and acknowledged Suho's sharp movements. Look at his unnatural cutting force too. It's like he's not slashing through a monster, but just swinging through empty space. Yun Sung-ah kept praising him to the skies. Essence of the straight, desolate moon, silence of the submissive. I can somewhat understand why all the major guilds in Seoul are targeting him. After constantly marveling at Suho's talent, Yun Sung-ah was determined to bring him in at all costs. No matter what, I have to bring him to my side. So the next cadet is. Her screen displayed several other prominent names. After scrolling back and forth for a while, her eyes landed on one person. Wait. It turned out the next person who made Yun Sung-ah feel a sense of novelty was Hajin. A cadet using a gun? Based on what she had gathered, the secretary recounted to her. Yes, he's also been talked about quite a bit in the guild community. It seems many people watch this video because he's on the same team as Yuna. Without an automatic rifle, he managed to fire 60 rounds in 3 seconds. Out of those shots, he hit the target 59 times. Even if someone pulls the trigger with agility, a shooter couldn't do that. It seemed Hajin's badass performance had caught the attention of many. They thought he was an unnoticed name, but now things were different. With such a low-rank SP, yet he pulled off a performance like that. Kim Hajin's skills could be called heresy internally. Furthermore, rumors say he switched from a sword to a gun after entering Cube. Hearing this, Yun Sung-ah somewhat grasped the situation. So he had an enlightenment. Enlightenment is a phenomenon where people realize their talents, their special abilities. Before enlightenment, people don't know what talent they possess. That's why there are some cases where, if the weapon they use doesn't match their talent after enlightenment, they might change their main weapon. But because their hard work would be wasted for 3 years or more if this happens, the military academy actively suggests cadets use a variety of weapons. Although Yun Sung-ah found Ha-jin very prominent, she didn't rate him very highly. Enlightenment at only 17. That's pretty fast. But it's only limited to the scope of guns. Nothing too outstanding. Anyway, we should keep an eye on him. Do we have any scouts available right now? Based on her grasp of the situation, the secretary replied, no. Because this batch is very special, everyone is maxing out their limits. Yun Sung-ah then decided to keep an eye on Ha-jin a bit longer to probe his talent. Let's just leave him be. If he's truly a diamond in the rough, he'll shine sooner or later. Whether it's heresy, a niche, or just too much, it will gradually reveal itself. Yun Sung-ah didn't want to interfere, choosing to stand aside and observe quietly, letting things unfold naturally. Wednesday finally arrived. Today was an occasion for the cadets to spar and show their full strength. Pairs would face off against each other to improve their physical fitness and train their minds. Today is anti-personnel combat training. Everyone was serious, using all their might to determine the winner against their opponent. The process was organized very systematically. The anti-personnel combat training is conducted in pairs. Everyone uses training weapons during the practice. That way, it's easier to evaluate and reduces the pain. But this was a living hell for Ha-jin. But, rank 934, Kim Ha-jin. You'd have to be really unlucky to get this. Everyone else was paired with a classmate, but only he got this special treatment. Get up quickly. Why am I the only one who has to fight the professor? As if reading his deepest thoughts, the professor immediately explained, if you're curious, let me explain. Because your training weapon hasn't been forged yet. And using a real weapon for anti-personnel training would cause many dangerous accidents. So, as a professor, I will train you personally. But regarding this special treatment, Ha-jin was very reluctant. I can't keep going. I surrender. But with his fighting spirit, how could the professor accept that? There's no such thing as surrendering in real combat. Without letting Ha-jin argue back, he directly threw a punch at him. Defend yourself. Ha-jin suddenly, in that life or death moment, activated his awesome skill. He might look like that, but once he got serious, he could dodge the professor's punch as easily as eating cake. Even the professor was a bit surprised at this moment that Ha-jin could move so fast. But it didn't stop there. He still had to maintain intense focus, not letting his guard down for even a second. Because the professor would still exploit Ha-jin's openings to attack him at any time. He kept throwing earth-shattering punches, but Ha-jin managed to dodge them all. At this moment, the professor also realized something incredibly special about him. This kid, his posture might not be perfect, but he can keep up with my speed with his eyes. Ha-jin's astonishing superhuman reflex speed made him more special than the others. And it wasn't natural that he could achieve that godlike speed. It was all thanks to clairvoyance. You can see far and roughly predict the target's movements. With the help of that skill, Ha-jin became the king of speed. Of course, the skill shows everything. All I have to do is dodge it myself. While he was training with the professor, the people around him started teasing him. Hey, look at him. That guy is literally jumping around like a monkey. Hearing the whispers and gossip about him, he couldn't help but feel bitter. Those guys. Do I just have to play along? SP has increased by 40. After a long day of stretching his bones and muscles, Ha-jin rewarded himself with a cold can of cola. He slumped down next to the vending machine and let out a long, exhausted sigh. It seemed Ha-jin was completely drained of energy. Then, he suddenly glanced forward with his pale, bloodless face. It turned out the person Ha-jin was paying attention to was Yuyona. She walked past him, looking less than pleased. Yuyona glared at him with eyes full of hostility and contempt. Ha-jin didn't say a word to her, only watching Yona's retreating back. Suddenly, upon running into her again, Ha-jin remembered something. I'm probably the only one who didn't write a letter to her. But with her personality, afraid that if he hesitated too long, Yona would leave, Ha-jin quickly pressed the button. Should I give it a try? Before she could get too far, Ha-jin managed to call out to her. Yuyona. He didn't stop her for anything important. He just wanted to hand her a can of cola. Although Yuyona was a bit bewildered and confused, she still took the cola. Even though Hajin was showing goodwill, she thought the worst of him. You want to fight? What are you trying to say? A moment later, he immediately came up with a reasonable excuse. You helped me out quite a bit during the last training session. Consider this drink a peace offering so we can get along. A simple test. If just playing along is enough to get 40 SP, then how much will I get for conversing with one of the main characters? Faced with Hajin's sincerity, Yuyona maintained her cold, bossy demeanor. I don't need it. Drink it yourself. Moreover, she was second to none when it came to being ruthless. Yuyona actually threw the can of cola back at him. It turned out that one of the things that annoyed her about him was the way he addressed her. Until I give you permission, don't speak to me so casually. This is your first warning. After making a fool of him in front of Hajin, Yuyona flipped her hair and walked away. She gripped her bag tightly and walked forward with absolute confidence. However, she hadn't gone far before Yuyona felt something was off. The weight in her hand started to feel different. It feels a bit heavier than usual. To clear things up, she opened the bag to see exactly what was inside. Surprise, surprise. Even though Yuyona had returned it, he had intentionally stuffed it inside. This idiot. So annoying. She raised it high, ready to take her anger out on the can. But after a moment of thought, Yuyona decided to lower her hand. It wouldn't be right to waste a drink just because of Hajin. So, she put it back inside her bag. Whatever, the Coca-Cola is innocent. Hajin stubbornly did that because he knew she loved sweets. Yuyona. She loves junk food like soda, ramen, and hamburgers. But because of her reputation, she can't buy those foods herself. That's her character setting. Hajin then sank deep into thought. Even though I can push the character settings that only I know about, if it's just a short conversation, I won't get much SP. Naturally, I have to force myself into the main plot. Which means, the next part of the main plot is about to begin. This is it. And the event Hajin was referring to was the Jin's attack on the National Armory. And who are they? Why would those people do such a thing? Jinns. Those who signed contracts with devils. Jinns traded their souls to gain immense power. They became the right-hand men working for the devil and were multiplying by the day. This incident occurred with the motive of assassinating a certain individual at the National Armory. According to what Hajin remembered, the main character's unexpected visit to the museum for an exhibition caused the Jin's plan to fail. The main character, Kim Suho, attracted the attention of several orthodox main characters through this episode. But even so, the situation didn't change too much. Although the two main characters, Kim Suho and Chai Nayun, appeared, since it was still early in the story, Chai Nayun wasn't in too much danger. After thinking it over carefully, he made a decision. Alright, I can blend into this episode. Now I have to find a way inside the museum. Suddenly, a security guard approached and asked him to leave. Hey, cadet over there. Classes are over. Why are you still here instead of going back to the dorms? You there, report your student ID number. To avoid any trouble, Hajin didn't linger and grabbed his laptop to leave. Sorry, I'll report it right away. The laptop screen displayed distorted characters and corrupted lines of code, as if an invisible force was trying to pierce the boundary between the digital world and reality. Then, a digitally glitched envelope icon appeared, hinting at an electronic message containing a system error or malicious code. At Cube, there are extracurricular activities. You can think of them as small organizations formed by the cadets, academics, martial arts, first-time experiences, hobbies, etc. By default, there are about 100 clubs covering all sorts of fields at Cube. Furthermore, besides self-improvement, clubs also serve as a social platform among the cadets. This was Kim Hajin's voice. That is exactly what the club I joined today follows. The Cube portal. Another voice suddenly rang out. Hello. Thank you for joining the travel club today. It was the voice of Ohan Hyun, the president of the travel club, Healing Ring. He continued, there are so many incredible people among the new members this year. Suddenly, Ohan Hyun became gloomy. When I received the application forms, I doubted whether it was real or not. The students behind him saw him like that and encouraged him. President Han Hyun, take a deep breath. Then he continued, anyway, let me explain a bit about our travel club, Healing Ring. Oh Han Hyun presented. The main goal of our club is to rest. We will use the teleportation portals to visit places outside of Cube once or twice a month. Kim Hajin was also present. He was listening closely to the announcement. We are planning to visit a nearby location for our group social activity today. We will be going to Seoul. Oh Han-hyun was extremely excited as he blurted that out. Meanwhile, Kim Hajin looked quite indifferent. He was thinking, a trip to Seoul, a place where everyone can freely do whatever they want by splitting into groups of two. Exactly as I wrote in the novel. Kim Hajin planned things out in his head. My destination today is the Seoul Armory, where the first main plotline kicks off. I'll follow the main characters there and infiltrate the main plot. Oh Han-hyun's voice was still ringing out. Now, for the group division. Come on up and draw lots, everyone. This left Kim Hajin a bit stunned. Drawing lots? Was the club originally set up like this? Well, no matter who I'm paired with, I can just go by myself. While he was thinking that, his name was suddenly read from a slip of paper. Kim Hajin. It was Yuna who had drawn his name. Not only did she freeze, but even Kim Hajin was completely petrified. At this moment, Yuna radiated a very thick, murderous aura and spoke up. We go our separate ways. Kim Hajin replied somewhat indifferently. Sure. Yuna turned her back and walked away. Suddenly, she spoke again. And one more thing. Yuna looked quite irritated. I told you not to speak to me so casually. This is your second warning. There won't be a third. Faced with this situation, Kim Hajin just forced a smile and played along. Yes, my lady. The cool weather and warm rays of sunlight enveloped the entire place. It was crowded with visitors inside. This place was the International Armory. It possessed the largest collection of replica weapons on display in South Korea. Amidst the crowd, the figure of Kim Hajin appeared, walking alone. Suddenly, he accidentally spotted Chai Na-yoon with bright eyes, admiring a bow and arrow on display. Chai Na-yoon is over there. Kim Hajin immediately understood. Then he shouldn't be far. Exactly as expected, he saw the target he was looking for. He was intently observing the treasure in front of him. It was Kim Suho, the main character of this novel. At this moment, Kim Suho saw Kim Hajin approaching him. Kim Hajin walked up and asked, Are you looking at the seven-branch sword? Kim Suho seemed to stutter, just uttering in, before introducing himself. I'm Kim Suho. Hearing that, Kim Hajin immediately flashed a very warm smile. Sorry, I forgot. He asked Kim Hajin, You're the one who chose the gun, right? So you joined the travel club too. Kim Hajin didn't seem thrilled by Kim Suho's words. He just glanced at him and judged, he's strong, handsome, and I've taken enough heat from readers complaining that the main character is too old-fashioned. Kim Suho continued, I think there are guns on display over there. Want to go take a look? I heard Napoleon's rifle is there too. Kim Hajin replied coldly, I'm good. You think? I don't think we have the time right now. Suddenly, the entire museum began to shake violently. The visitors inside were extremely curious, not knowing what was happening. The PA system immediately blared an announcement. Warning! Monsters have appeared outside the museum. The warning sirens continued to wail. The people here immediately panicked, their faces turning pale. The sound of the announcement echoed through every corner of the museum. Monsters have appeared outside. Everyone was terrified, screaming at the top of their lungs. Then they panicked and ran. Hurry! Where's the exit? The scene of people scrambling was utterly chaotic. Don't push. Get out of the way. I said move. Too many adults shoving each other caused this little girl to almost fall to the ground. At this moment, the sound of a punch shattering glass rang out. It was Chai Na-yoon who did that. Thanks to that, everyone focused their attention on her. Everyone witnessing this scene froze. Astonishment and bewilderment were clearly visible on their faces. Kim Suho, who had caught the little girl who was about to fall earlier, was also petrified by this situation. Chai Na-yoon spoke up loudly and clearly. Calm down. The hero in charge of the museum will be here soon. She reached into the glass case to grab the bow and arrow while saying, If you leave in this situation, you'll only become monster bait. At the same time, the museum's system voice rang out. Display case damaged. Exhibit thief identified. Lowering security shutters. Immediately, the entire area was put under lockdown. The iron shutters lowered, warning sirens blared, and glaring red laser beams appeared everywhere. Chai Na-yoon irritably turned to Kim Suho. You grab a weapon too. We need to stand guard until the hero arrives. Kim Suho was stunned. Suddenly, the bone-chilling sound of footsteps appeared. Chai Nayan also quickly noticed it. A blazing red stream of internal energy appeared in front of her. Chai Nayan immediately reached for the arrows on her back. The footsteps became clearer and clearer. At the same time, Tomer's voice rang out. One of them slipped in. Kim Hajin stood to the side observing and quickly recognized him. A Jin, Lucius's dog. He's a villain used as a stepping stone to help the main character grow. At this moment, Tomer swung his hand, extending sharp claws. Flexing his power, he was ready to lunge and attack Chai Nayan. Just as Tomer was about to strike, Kim Suho suddenly appeared behind him with a massive sword. He didn't hesitate, about to deal Tomer a fatal blow. This scene was being witnessed by Kim Hajin. He thought to himself, just like in the novel, Suho can easily defeat him. But it wasn't like what Kim Hajin said. With one hand, Tomer sent Kim Suho flying far away. His terrifying strength slammed him hard against the wall. Then Kim Suho slowly slid down right behind Kim Hajin. This left him utterly shocked. After Tomer's devastating blow, Kim Suho collapsed on the floor, leaving a large dent in the wall. The laser system was immediately activated, setting traps all over the room. Kim Hajin was momentarily scared pale, his eyes wide in shock, questioning himself. Something's very wrong. The story I wrote didn't develop like this. Initially, they were held back a bit, but then it turned into a battle where Kim Suho unleashed his power and overwhelmed the opponent. Chai Nayan also became panicked and confused, muttering, "Kim Suho." She screamed, "Kim Suho." This powerful voice woke him up. Suho jolted awake, coughing up a puddle of blood. Hajin hurriedly rushed over, asking anxiously, "Are you okay?" Suho struggled to stand up, his whole body trembling uncontrollably, and managed to reply, I'm not." Nayan took a step forward, thinking deeply. His condition isn't good. He needs time to recover. But just as she was about to charge forward, she had a bad premonition. Startled, she looked back and saw Tomer, overflowing with murderous intent, lunging at her with magic power in his hands. She quickly reacted to the situation, drawing 2 arrows from her back, tensely observing the opponent. Next, Chai Nayan didn't hesitate to launch an attack. All 3 arrows simultaneously sped toward the approaching enemy. On the contrary, he didn't dodge at all, casually letting the countless sharp arrows pierce his body, smirking in contempt. Nayan was shocked by his demeanor. She had no choice but to continue shooting arrows at the opponent. Once again, her arrows pierced straight into Tomer's body. He still stood there calmly as if he felt no pain, the smile on his lips growing even more arrogant. By this point, Chai Nayan was scared pale by him. She stood frozen in shock, her face unable to hide her terror and confusion. She gripped her bow tightly, her whole body trembling with anger. Nayan refused to give up. She continued to draw arrows and shoot, her mind in utter panic. It's not a special ability or healing. That bastard. This time, the arrow she just shot was directly snapped in half in midair. Standing against the continuously fired arrows with nothing but a look of disdain. True to form, Tomer easily used his own strength to shake off all the arrows embedded in his body, simultaneously neutralizing the enemy's attacks. His face couldn't hide his arrogant amusement. He narrowed his eyes, suddenly flashing a wicked smile. Hajin instinctively looked back and panicked, crying out, "No!" He used all his strength to yell, "Nayan, run!" But at this moment, Tomer was lunging toward Chai Nayan at lightning speed. He aimed his demonic claws straight at her. Nayan could only watch anxiously as those sharp objects approached her face. Right at the crucial moment, Kim Hajin charged in. He leaped into the air, landing a punch on Tomer, pushing him far away from his teammate. Then he hurriedly turned to Nayan, asking frantically, "Nayan, are you okay?" Nayan quickly drew an arrow, hastily reminding him, "Worry about yourself." Before she could finish speaking, the enemy powerfully lunged at the 2 of them again in a flash. Kim Hajin tried to use his sword to block his massive demonic arm, trembling and struggling immensely. Suddenly, from the black smoke, a giant mouth appeared, opening wide in front of his sword blade. Its fangs gleamed, incredibly sharp. Under Tomer's control, the beast formed from black smoke fiercely bit down on Hajin's holy sword, its eyes flashing with murderous intent. Its master grinned gleefully. Kim Ha-jin stared in shock at the spirit beast in front of him, unable to comprehend. Has his body changed? The monster began a relentless assault, making him unable to resist and forcing him to retreat. Taking advantage of the momentum, Tomer lunged forward, fiercely slamming Ha-jin to the floor and raising his fist for a punch. He used the monster to pin Ha-jin down. When the sharp fangs pierced his neck, blood immediately dripped out. He groaned in pain. Right at this moment, countless arrows imbued with spiritual energy pierced through Tomer's back, making him grimace in pain and immediately stop his brutal assault. It was Chai Na-yun, with an expression of extreme tension, having just saved her teammate from peril. Tomer turned his head, glaring at her. His wounds also quickly healed. The very next second, without hesitation, he launched a giant demonic claw that enveloped Na-yun, leaving her no time to react. Only when it was right in front of her eyes did Na-yun freeze in realization, letting out a stunned gasp. In the blink of an eye, she was sent flying into the wall. The sound of the impact was incredibly loud. Kim Ha-jin anxiously watched Na-yun repeat the same scene as Suho, feeling extremely uneasy. This is too much. He thought to himself, at this rate, someone is going to die? Ha-jin's face suddenly darkened. He frantically shouted to the surroundings. Everyone, run away. Looking back, Na-yun was still struggling and resisting fiercely. He himself was having a hard time resisting the pressure from Tomer. His mind was in utter panic. I definitely wrote this novel. So why is the content so different? Ha-jin tried to calm himself down, trembling as he took out his laptop. Calm down. Right now, I need to do what I can first. His whole body couldn't stop shaking. In a state of extreme tension, he poured a few silver bullets out of the box. Holding the bullet in his hand, Ha-jin grew even more bitter and cursed. Damn it. Damn it. Magic bullet. Non-attribute. Destructive power. February 5th, 10. A bullet condensed with mana. These bullets can't even put a scratch on that demonic bastard. Even if I increase the destructive power, it won't deal fatal damage. But if I'm in my novel's world, the general settings shouldn't have changed. If so, thinking of this, Kim Ha-jin didn't hesitate to start typing frantically on the keyboard. The normal bullet from earlier instantly transformed. The system announced, settings of the magic bullet are being modified. The attribute of the mana bullet has been changed. Destructive power has been changed to 6. This requires 104 SP. Do you wish to apply the changes? Ha-jin immediately took out his gun, thinking joyfully, it worked. He skillfully loaded the bullets into the magazine. The reason this world needs many, many heroes, Ha-jin hurriedly rushed forward, is because attributes and astrology can overcome the difference in power, allowing an individual to display greater strength. Ahead, Tomer and Kim Suho were engaged in a fierce battle. Ha-jin raised his gun and took aim. He thought to himself, that demon is definitely of the darkness attribute. His finger slowly lowered onto the trigger. And the thing that dispels darkness is light. No doubt about it. Ha-jin suddenly shouted, Kim Suho. He made up his mind, firing a powerful blast of mana with a blinding light. Ha-jin roared, die. The system displayed, white bullet. Light attribute. Destructive power, 6/10. A bullet condensed with the essence of light. It usually creates a secondary explosion inside the body. The bullet was swiftly fired by Ha-jin. It landed precisely on Tomer's shoulder while he was still stunned, not understanding what was happening. Boom. The bullet immediately exploded. The light radiated incredibly strong. One of Tomer's arms was obliterated instantly. The fierce shockwave forced everyone around to step back. The explosion from the white bullet emitted a blinding light, making everyone wary of the shockwave. Tomer took the hit, and one of his arms was instantly severed, much to his own shock. By the time he realized the situation, he was already screaming in anger and agony. Chai Na-yun, who had been pinned to the wall by him, had fainted at some point. When he let his guard down, she slowly slid down. Kim Ha-jin stood right there, his whole body trembling with fear. Did I drag this out too long? The heavily injured Tomer was trembling, clutching his shoulder. Kim Suho seized the opportunity, gripping his sword and aiming forward. Ha-jin collapsed to the floor, looking utterly panicked. The gun in his hand had also shattered. He panted heavily. When he regained his senses a bit, He instinctively looked up. Kim Suho was unleashing a fierce surge of mana, his face filled with absolute determination, his eyes flashing with murderous intent, glaring at the enemy. The next second, his holy sword, wrapped in powerful spiritual energy, was slowly swung out. Tomer only now realized his own situation, but he wore an expression of shock, staring dumbfounded at the mystical light glowing brightly. Kim Suho leisurely stroked the sword, the mana radiating stronger and stronger. The power of the sword saint can cut through anything. And then it finally ended. Kim Suho decisively sliced Tomer in half, with just one strike in the blink of an eye. In his final moments, he only had time to let out a few groans of agony. Then he was completely drained of life force, collapsing on the floor. Suho also slowly landed, heavily planting the holy sword onto the floor, concluding the attack. His sweat poured down continuously, and his breathing became heavy and rapid. On this side, Chai Nayan wasn't doing much better. She knelt on the ground, her whole body trembling uncontrollably from extreme terror. Kim Suho quickly walked over, reaching out to comfort her, gently asking, "Are you okay, Nayan?" Instantly, Nayan coldly slapped his hand away. Kim Suho stared blankly at his rejected hand, a bit speechless. Right at this moment, Kim Hajin casually walked over, nonchalantly saying, "Just leave her alone. I'm sure her brother will come comfort her soon." He thought to himself, that's what happened in the novel. Seeing no one reply, Hajin instinctively looked up. Both Kim Suho and Nayoon were staring at him wide-eyed, their faces filled with shock and astonishment. She looked at him in confusion, her face tense, and asked tremblingly, "What did you just say?" As soon as she finished speaking, she collapsed from exhaustion, causing Suho to panic and cry out, "Nayoon!" Outside, the spiked lizards were aggressively charging in, spewing firepower from their mouths. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed in midair. The next second, the spiked lizards immediately suffered countless blades piercing their flesh, collapsing to the ground in pain. When they had all passed out, a pair of feet wearing red shoes calmly walked over. It was Yun Sunga. She walked into the middle of the battlefield holding dual swords, casually asking, "Is it over?" An ambulance quickly appeared. The person inside hurriedly walked over, calling out loudly, "Vice Guild Leader." The emergency situation outside the museum has been resolved. Yun Sunga breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. How is everything inside the museum? A Jin appeared, but he was dealt with immediately. There were 3 cube cadets there at the time. Yun Sunga was a bit amazed and asked curiously, how commendable. Who were they? The subordinate thought for a moment and replied, "It was Chai Nayoon, Kim Suho," and, hearing this name, her eyes lit up. Yun Sunga hurriedly dashed off with an eager look, leaving behind her confused subordinate calling after her. "What is it, Vice Guild Leader?" Sunga couldn't hide the joy on her face, marveling inwardly. Thank goodness. I didn't expect to have the chance to interact with Kim Suho in a place like this. She quickly ran to the museum entrance, still debating in her mind. What should I say first? Suddenly, Kim Hajin caught her eye. Sunga felt like she had struck gold. Perfect timing. To his surprise, she didn't hesitate to walk over. Yun Sunga suddenly appeared right in front of Hajin at a close distance, saying excitedly, "Hello." She hurriedly asked him, "You're a cube cadet, right? Do you know?" Before she could finish her sentence, Hajin immediately cut her off. He stepped aside and said calmly, "Kim Suho is in there." Yun Sunga politely left, replying courteously, "Thanks." She happily walked inside without a second thought. But after walking a short distance, Sunga suddenly realized something and exclaimed in suspicion, "Wait a minute. How did you know I was looking for Kim Suho?" By this time, Hajin was exhaustedly leaning against a bench in the plaza, sighing heavily. He opened his laptop, thinking deeply. Yun Sunga suddenly talking to me scared the crap out of me. Is this situation also related to the changes in the story? I want to check. Let's get straight to the point. A foreign character named Kim Hajin got involved in the story, but his role is still very faint. So far, everything has progressed without any issues. So, I'm definitely not important enough to impact the story. Thinking of this, Hajin froze again. He remembered something and muttered in a daze. I completely forgot. This novel has a co-author. This world is a remake of the novel I wrote. If this world is based on what was written by the person who sent that email, then it makes sense that things are happening that I didn't foresee. If so, maybe the predictions based on my novel are currently useless. This hypothesis left Kim Ha-jin utterly shocked, completely frozen in place. Suddenly, a sound rang out, making his stiff body jolt. Ha-jin looked in confusion at the glowing laptop screen. The mailbox had a new notification. He thought to himself, a message? When he opened it, it was a system notification. A flaw. The main character and the characters around him are never in danger. If this continues, there is a risk that readers will get tired of such boring, repetitive tropes where the main character always comes to the rescue. Therefore, Ha-jin's fingers twitched slightly. He looked at the screen, his face darkening, and exclaimed in shock, "What? What did you say?" There is an alternative measure from now on. The level of enemies will be increased, even if this leads to chaos. As the sky turned red and dusk fell, Park Soo-hyuk walked over, waving to his students. Kim Soo-ho, Kim Ha-jin. He approached the two of them and instructed carefully, "I've heard about what happened. I'll ask for the details later. For now, just head back." Suddenly, Kim Soo-ho spoke up and asked, "What about Nayeon?" Park Soo-hyuk replied casually. "She took sick leave and went back to her family. You two should hurry back to Cube as well." After saying that, he turned and left, leaving the two of them staring blankly at his back. At this moment, Kim Soo-ho suddenly called out, "Ha-jin," making him startle and turn around. He looked at him with suspicion and said hesitantly, "About what happened earlier? Why did you say that to Nayeon?" Ha-jin put on an innocent face and asked back, "Say what?" Soo-ho replied bluntly, "The thing about her brother." Kim Ha-jin only now remembered and replied seriously, "Well, it's because her brother is quite." But at this moment, he remembered the message from earlier. A point of criticism. He forced himself to regain his composure and asked Kim Soo-ho in confusion, "What about her brother?" He looked at him with doubt and questioned irritably, "Are you pretending not to know?" Ha-jin explained awkwardly, "What? No, I really." Right at this moment, a sharp pain shot through Soo-ho's head, making his face turn purple. Finally, he had to let it go. "Whatever. We'll talk later." Chai Na-yeon, formerly ranked 4th at the Military Agent Academy, currently enrolled at the Cube Hero Training Academy. Family relations. Chai Shin-hyuk, father, and Chai Jin-yoon, older brother. Kim Ha-jin sat in front of the screen, looking at it over and over again, still feeling confused, and muttered in bewilderment, "It's exactly the same as my settings." What was up with that reaction? Suddenly, he saw something and instinctively cried out. Catching Ha-jin's eye was a large headline. Breaking news. Chai Shin-hyuk's son, Chai Jin-yoon, has fallen into critical condition after a Jin attack. Below were countless articles about this event. Operation Spark was a success. Newly joined hero Chai Jin-yoon is currently in a coma. Hero Chai Jin-yoon successfully rescued 3 teammates during a Jin attack and has been declared to be in a coma. Ha-jin froze in shock, exclaiming in astonishment, "What is the meaning of this?" The Jin suppression operation, Spark. That was the first victory achieved thanks to the support for the main character, Chai Jin-yoon. Chai Na-yeon, who was only 13 at the time, was incredibly proud of her brother, who had become a hero. Or at least, that's what I had set up. While he was still confused, the laptop screen lit up again. Another new message had arrived. Ha-jin thought to himself, those messages again. When he clicked on the chat box, the system immediately displayed a notification. This message will be sent after the target, Kim Ha-jin, realizes the first setting change. During Operation Spark, someone was lying unconscious in a pool of blood. Teammates around him desperately screamed, "Jin-yoon, wake up, Jin-yoon." His eyes half opened, but were soon blurred by tears. The main character was judged to have too many helpers. The settings were immediately changed to the lines below. Change point. For years ago, Chai Jin-yoon, after being appointed as a hero, met with an accident during his very first deployment. He received a devil's seed and became a devil's seed carrier. Reading these lines, Kim Ha-jin was completely stunned, his eyes wide, and blurted out in confusion, "What?" In the hospital room, the news was broadcasting. Around 1 p.m. today, a group of monsters appeared in the center of the capital, Seoul. The sudden appearance of these monsters caused about 50 civilians to be injured and about 7 others to be killed. At the center of the suppression was Yoon Sung-ga, Vice Guild leader of the Creators Sacred Grace Guild, and others. Suddenly, a hand reached out and turned off the speaker. The hospital room was quite dark. The person sat in the middle of the room, hugging herself in solitude, bringing a gloomy atmosphere. She hugged her body tightly, burying herself in the blanket, her face lowered in despair. Suddenly, Chai Shinhyuk rushed in from outside with a doctor, shouting in panic, "Nayun!" Chai Nayun startled and sat up, crying out in surprise. She asked her father anxiously, "What's wrong, Dad? What about your work?" He gently reassured her. "Do you think work is what's important right now? How are you? Are you feeling better?" "Yes, I'm fine." Shinhyuk was still worried and asked carefully, "Are you really okay? Did the detailed checkup show nothing wrong? I can tell the doctor." But Nayun quickly brushed it off, saying cheerfully, "It's fine. There's really nothing wrong. Why did you come all the way here?" He replied hesitantly, "Because I was worried about you, Nayun." She felt a bit guilty and sighed, "I'm really fine." Suddenly, Chai Nayun called out, "Dad." She curled up, feeling wronged, and asked sadly, "Can I go visit my brother before I'm discharged?" Chai Shinhyuk was momentarily shocked, looking at his daughter with heartache, unable to speak. He gently held Nayun's hand and immediately agreed. "Of course you can." Devil's Seed Carrier. A higher form of a jinn. It can take over a human by turning them into a devil's seed carrier. The person turned into a devil's seed carrier will enter an incubation period until it sprouts and hatches into powerful devils. Kim Hajin pondered deeply. According to my settings, such an incubation period is about 5 to 6 years. So it's already halfway through. On this side, Chai Nayun had also changed into casual clothes, standing in front of someone's hospital room. The sign clearly read, Room 803, Chai Jinyun. There is only one way to resolve this messy situation. And that is as quickly as possible, before the devil inside Chai Jinyun's body hatches. He must be killed. Hajin fell into panic again. But how? Who is going to do it? I can't just hand it over to anyone. No mercenary will accept a request to kill the 4th-generation descendant of a noble family. And because there's nothing to measure this sprouting process, no proposal can be made against it. Kim Suho can't fight a fully sprouted devil. Even if all the current hero forces are mobilized, it's inevitable that some will have to sacrifice themselves. That's why I can't let all of that happen. All those people have to become his support in the later parts of the story. At this moment, Chai Nayun sat by the hospital bed and called out, "Brother." Kim Hajin on this side became extremely tense, his whole body trembling. In the end, Nayun looked at her brother with heartache and said tearfully, "I'm here." Hajin only had one choice. He held his head, looking at the laptop. "I will have to kill him." On this side, Nayun was telling Jinyun a story. "This was my first time seeing a jinn. I almost died, you know? I mean, how could a truly normal person fight that jinn? But that gunner." Speaking up to here, she suddenly stopped. Nayun was tongue-tied, unable to continue, and muttered, "Never mind, let's not talk about that." A knock on the door came from outside. "Visiting hours are over." Nayun instinctively replied, "Yes." She smoothed the blanket for her brother and reluctantly said goodbye. "I'll come back later, brother." Nayun closed the door and stepped out into the hallway. She quietly lowered her head in silence. She took a step, but after a few steps, she suddenly stopped, staring blankly as if thinking about something. A memory flashed in her mind. The other day, Hajin casually said, "Just leave her alone." He looked at her with cold eyes, his words incredibly confusing. "I'm sure her brother will come comfort her soon." Thinking of this, Nayun instinctively bit her lip tightly. Her face became terrifyingly gloomy, her eyes flashing with murderous intent, and she growled softly, "Kim Hajin." At the Hero Tower, the lights on the floors were still on. In the archive room, a voice rang out. Vice Guild Leader. Jiren stood guard at the door anxiously, warning, "Accessing a national organization's records without permission is breaking the law. What if you get caught?" Yin Sunga continued searching and reassured him dismissively, "It's fine. I just need to take a quick peek at the museum attack today." Jiren started to break down. But that's exactly the problem. Yun Sunga began to analyze. According to this photo, traces of light attribute mana were found on the jinn's body. That means one of the people who defeated that jinn can use this attribute. Her whole body flared up with the fire of enthusiasm. Yun Sunga excitedly clenched her fists and said joyfully, "Someone who can use the light attribute is a huge threat to those jinns. No matter what, we have to find and recruit that person, Jiren." Hearing that, he thought helplessly, she's going crazy over talent recruitment again. Suddenly, Yun Sunga asked, "The jinn was defeated by 3 cadets who happened to be at the exhibition, right?" "One of them must be," Jiren affirmed confidently, "the one who can use the light attribute." She started listing the names. Kim Suho, Chai Nayun. We've had our eyes on these people for a while now. A question popped into Yun Sungra's mind. She voiced her doubt, "But I've never heard of this third person's name." Ranked 934 at Cube, Kim Hajin. On another side, Kim Hajin sat typing on his laptop and reflected. "I only recently realized this." He was a bit glad, but it seems others can't see this laptop. Thanks to that, I can freely check the settings without fear of the characters seeing it. Kim Hajin continued thinking. After realizing this, I installed a few more features on the computer. Suddenly, the referee's voice rang out, interrupting his train of thought. "The winner is Rachel." That was the appearance of a setting change. A notification popped up. Character Damien's confidence has decreased compared to the original setting. He knelt on the ground, crying his eyes out as his score was too far apart from Rachel's. "Someone please change my sparring partner." Kim Hajin started to introduce, "It's this feature. I'll receive a notification if there's a change from the novel I wrote within a 30-meter radius around me." Kim Hajin was a bit confident. This thing must be more effective. Messages from that co-author only arrive when I realize something. At this moment, a dark shadow suddenly appeared behind him. Chai Nayun, with eyes full of murderous intent, asked, "Why won't you spar with me?" Kim Hajin looked at her in silence. A moment later, he bluntly refused, "I don't want to." Chai Nayun retorted, "Why? Are you scared? After talking about someone else's family like that?" The other cadets who were training saw the argument and became confused. Are they fighting? Kim Hajin wasn't angry at her mocking words. He just calmly replied, "Because this is direct combat, I have to be careful. I don't want to get in trouble for injuring a classmate." Seeing him look down on her, Chai Nayun angrily gritted her teeth and cursed, "You bastard." At this moment, the professor walked over and scolded, "What are you doing?" He reminded them, Cadet Hajin cannot spar with other cadets because he hasn't received weapon training yet. Return to your position, Cadet Nayun. Hearing that, she turned away in frustration. Chai Nayun ignored Kim Hajin and walked away. Only then did he glance at her and suddenly realize, "I don't think I've apologized yet." But Kim Hajin quickly dismissed that thought. "I have a fundamental goal. I'm currently working myself to death to get stronger." He aimed for a single goal, to be able to kill her brother. Kim Hajin reflected, "Even if I go and improve our relationship, in the future, she'll only feel even more betrayed." At another building, in room 305, a large crowd had gathered. A voice rang out, "Is everyone here?" Yoon Hyun introduced himself. "Welcome to the Truth Club's orientation. I am the president of the Truth Academic Club, Yoon Hyun." He continued to get into the main points. "The main activity of our club is researching monsters and researching attack strategies. So we will gather every week to discuss." Yoon Hyun continued his speech. "If everyone has read the flyers we handed out." Below, both male and female cadets were blushing at him. Kim Hajin analyzed, handsome appearance, the ability to charm listeners. He affirmed confidently, "Those are the abilities of a devil." Kim Hajin recalled the plot. Cube, an important stage in the early parts of the novel, had quite a few incidents like cadets being kidnapped and monster invasions. Yoon Hyun is the villain leading those events. He recalled Yoon Hyun's true identity. He is an individual who obtained the charm ability from the devil Lilith. Kim Hajin speculated, that guy's main goal, he was certain of his speculation, is the exact reason I joined this academic club. At this moment, Yuyona was also sitting and listening to the orientation. She coldly crossed her arms and looked forward. Yoon Hyun gently turned on the screen. "Since today is the orientation, let's take it easy, shall we?" A 3D image of a monster appeared. He then introduced, "This is an upper intermediate rank monster, the Mountain Tyrant. It started appearing since the outbreak, so it's a monster with a history of nearly 50 years. Yoon Hyun stated a fact. Inside and outside of Cube, information about high-rank monsters is very valuable. and information related to their weaknesses is worth millions of dollars or more. He posed a question and called out, "So what does everyone think the mountain tyrant's weakness is?" Cadet Yuyona, hearing the question, she bluntly replied, "I heard no weakness has been made public yet." Yoon-hyun agreed, "That's right. Discussing cases like this is one of the joys of an academic club like this." Then he invited, "Whoever wants to share their opinions, please join the gathering right after this." At this moment, Kim Hajin called out, "Are you going too, Lady Yona?" She ignored him and walked past. Seeing himself being ignored, Kim Hajin loudly repeated his words, "Is Lady Yona also joining the gathering later?" Only then did she reluctantly answer, "Yes, because I might gather some useful information." Kim Hajin froze, thinking, what use could monster information be to her? He voiced his speculation, "Are you planning to share it with your guild's attack squad?" Yuyona, having her true intentions exposed, glared at him. That is the essence of the Straight Guild. 50 years ago, during the outbreak, this guild was established, and it is centered around Yuyona's family. Currently, they are one of the major influential guilds in South Korea. Then Kim Hajin bluntly said, "But I heard the vice guild leader's backing is very strong lately, to the point where you, the legitimate heir, are being threatened." He exposed Yuyona's true motive. "That's why you came to the gathering later, which is completely unlike you. To get information." She didn't care and asked directly, "So what are you trying to say?" Kim Hajin proposed, "I'll tell you about it. The weakness of the high-rank monster, Mountain Tyrant." Yuyona couldn't quite believe her ears. She stammered, "What?" Kim Hajin just casually said, "Now, if you want to inherit the guild without any problems, you have to make a contribution, right?" Then he started instructing, "The small mark on its heel. If you attack there, it will completely stop the Mountain Tyrant's movements." Kim Hajin posed a question, "But I won't give you this information for free. Your guild is hosting an arms auction, right?" He stated his demand, "I want you to buy a Desert Eagle from them for me." Yuyona was silent for a long time. She raised a doubt. "And what about proof? Do you have proof to back up that claim?" Kim Hajin smirked smugly. He gave a lame answer, "No, I don't." This answer left both of them in a state of confusion. Yona looked at him helplessly. She gritted her teeth and turned her head away. Waste of time. Kim Hajin didn't stop her, but said, "I swear, if you don't believe me, you're going to take a huge loss." Kim Hajin calmly analyzed the scenarios. "If Yona decides to ignore me, this $1 million information will be wasted." He thought of another, better possibility. "But if she believes me, I'll have a powerful ally." On the other side, Yuyona was contacting her teammate. "Hello, Secretary Jinha? Can you pass a message to the Mountain Tyrant attack squad?" She blushed as she instructed. When attacking, Yuyona stated the weakness Kim Hajin had pointed out. The blue mark on its heel might be its weakness. So try to attack there. Kim Hajin was certain of one thing. She is an ally who will one day be known as the Queen of Seoul. A notification screen popped up with the text, "Promissory note. Client, Cube Main Bank. Debtor, Cube Cadet, Kim Hajin. Loan amount, $300,000. The creditor, Cube Bank, will be referred to as the client, and the debtor, Kim Hajin, will be referred to as the debtor. Both parties agree to the following terms." Looking at the screen clearly displaying the debt amount in front of him, Kim Hajin broke out in a cold sweat and stammered, repeating, $300,000. In case you didn't know, the maximum loan amount for a Cube Cadet is $300,000. Kim Hajin guessed inwardly. He used the debt, dug up all the money he could, and ran away. He cursed angrily. This bastard Kim Chundong. What the hell was he doing? Suddenly, Kim Hajin remembered something. He hurriedly opened his smartwatch to check. What about the bank account? The watch screen displayed the number $3,000. Kim Hajin felt helpless. No way. If this keeps up, I won't just be sent back to my original world. He thought of the creditor chasing after him with the indentured servitude contract in hand. "Mr. Client, you can't pay your debt anymore? Don't worry." Then he thought of a life drifting at sea, working hard to pay off the debt. Kim Hajin deduced the worst-case scenario. "I might end up spending my whole life paying off this debt." He cursed and told himself, "Looks like I'll have to do something to make money." Kim Hajin analyzed. "Currently, I have 2 legal methods to make a lot of money." He thought of the 2 options. One is stocks. Kim Ha-jin recalled the world's background. In this world, towers and dungeons constantly appear. The opportunities to discover and conquer them are just like companies. And the guilds are all listed on the stock exchange with their own guild stocks. However, he ran into a major problem. Even though I do know which guilds will successfully go public, I currently have no money to invest at all, so I'll have to put the stock thing on hold. Kim Ha-jin decided to choose the other option. Then maybe I should start going to the fields. The second option was the hunting fields. To introduce them a bit, they are dangerous areas occupied by monsters. They have many differences compared to towers and dungeons. The difficulty here fluctuates greatly, and you can quickly make money by selling monster parts. Kim Ha-jin was a bit doubtful, but I only recently barely passed the average stat requirements for a male. Is this enough to go hunting in the fields? He looked at the stats on the display screen. Stat values: Strength 1.735, Stamina 1.745, Agility 2.15, Intelligence 2.605, Vitality 1.65, Magic Power 0.13. Kim Ha-jin thought of a solution. If I use SP to upgrade this handgun, it'd be a waste. There has to be another way. Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupted his train of thought. The delivery man called out, "Cadet Kim Ha-jin, you have a package from Cadet Yuyona." Kim Ha-jin was a bit puzzled. From Yuyona? He opened the door and saw a parcel box placed outside. Kim Ha-jin used his hands to open the box. Seeing the item inside, he exclaimed in shock, "This is..." The scene shifted to the Wonju area in Gangwon Province, the field zone. The female staff member smiled and said, "Thank you for using the portal, Cadet Kim Ha-jin." She cheerfully wished him, "Happy hunting." Hearing that, he was a bit flustered. Just because I'm a cadet, she's so friendly. Kim Ha-jin stepped out of the portal. This place was bustling with people. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Kim Ha-jin observed the surrounding scenery. There was some information as follows. The Gangwon Province area has a field with a fairly low danger level, so even foreigners from all over the world come here to hunt. This makes this city known as an international megacity. A young man called out loudly, "I'm looking for a party." He shouted, "We are escorting a mage who wants to go to the vicinity of Mount Chayak to sell potions made from slime blood." Kim Ha-jin looked around. The citizens were gossiping animatedly. There's a rumor that here in Wonju, Gangwon Province, there's a crazy guy hunting shirtless. Channel whatever also specifically came to investigate this. Looking for a party. I'm asking where you are right now. At this moment, Kim Ha-jin noticed a woman calculating prices. 3 small slimes, right? That's $600 in total. Seeing this, he suddenly realized, come to think of it, I'll have to find an agent right away to get a good deal on selling monster parts later. Kim Ha-jin hesitated. Should I just find a random agent nearby? Suddenly, someone approached him from behind. He greeted politely. "Excuse me." Kim Ha-jin turned his head back. It turned out to be Park Soo-hyuk. With messy hair, he approached and asked, "Are you here to hunt monsters?" Kim Ha-jin wondered, "Are you an agent?" Park Soo-hyuk stammered, "Where is my business card?" Because he was so clumsy, he dropped papers all over the ground. Then Park Soo-hyuk handed him a business card. Here is my business card." Kim Ha-jin took it and judged inwardly, this guy seems a bit careless. But then he was shocked when he saw the text written on the business card. In Kim Ha-jin's mind, he repeated, "SH Agency. Park Soo-hyuk." That was what was written on the business card. He remembered the image of him sitting at the pinnacle. This person isn't just the best agency director in South Korea. He became the representative agent for Kim Soo-ho. Kim Ha-jin was a bit stunned. Who would have thought I'd meet him here? At this moment, Park Soo-hyuk said somewhat shyly, "You haven't heard of me, have you?" "Well, I haven't been doing this for long." Kim Ha-jin muttered aloud, "SH." He reached out his hand and said happily, "Looks good to me. I'll sign the contract." Seeing him agree so quickly, Park Soo-hyuk was a bit bewildered and asked, "Really?" Kim Ha-jin speculated, this world is still in the early parts of the novel, so there will be many people who haven't discovered their true worth as written in the novel. Park Soo-hyuk was so overjoyed that he grabbed his hand and shook it vigorously. "Thank you. I will give you the best service ever." Kim Ha-jin decided, and building a relationship beforehand isn't a bad idea at all. Suddenly, he remembered something. Wait, I just intercepted Kim Soo-ho's agent connection. Is that okay? A moment later, a voice rang out. But, Kim Ha-jin asked worriedly, "Are you sure it's okay for you to follow me like this?" Park Soo-hyuk was out of breath from walking, but still reassured him, Don't worry. If we run into a dangerous situation, it's fine to just leave me behind." Kim Ha-jin was a bit doubtful. Most agents without cars usually wait at the outer edge of the field. Is he really that desperate for business? Suddenly, Park Soo-hyuk looked at the footprints on the ground and said, "I see traces of a small slime here. This type has a low difficulty, and the price is around $300 to $400 per head. What do you think?" Kim Ha-jin replied dismissively, "I'm not sure." In his mind, he calculated, one magic bullet is already $200. So, if I want to make a profit, it's better to find a higher-priced monster. Then Kim Ha-jin pointed in a direction and asked, "What about that one?" Looking at the giant monster below, Park Soo-hyuk replied, "That's..." He tried to look closely and gasped in shock. "Isn't that an iron bristleboar?" Park Soo-hyuk smiled awkwardly and warned Kim Ha-jin, "You can't hunt that type with a gun. You can't pierce its skin." But he just replied confidently, "Whether I can pierce its skin or not, I have to try it first to know." Hearing that, Park Soo-hyuk froze. Kim Ha-jin reassured him, "My gun is pretty good, you see." Then he recalled in his mind the weapon he received for providing Yu Yona with information about the mountain tyrant. Kim Ha-jin took out the prepared Desert Eagle. Its specs were as follows: high-rank Desert Eagle. Iron attribute. Amplifies destructive power. Low-rank weight reduction magic. High-rank recoil reduction technology. At the same time, Kim Ha-jin had upgraded it. "And I used SP to add a special setting to this thing." Park Soo-hyuk tried to stop him, saying, "Excuse me, but you'll only anger it." Cadet Kim Ha-jin. He didn't care and just focused on aiming. Park Soo-hyuk still called out helplessly, "Cadet Kim Ha-jin." He fired a bullet straight at the iron bristleboar. The bullet flew over and pierced through its body instantly. The iron bristleboar collapsed in pain. Park Soo-hyuk also dropped his jaw in astonishment. Kim Ha-jin had sent the iron bristleboar back to the earth with just one bullet in the blink of an eye. Park Soo-hyuk also fell to his knees in surprise. It turned out the special setting for the Desert Eagle, aside from the other specs, was, every time an enemy is killed in one strike, the destructive power amplification will increase. Kim Ha-jin walked near the edge of the cliff. He looked at his achievement and said proudly, "That's a good skill too." Beside him, Park Soo-hyuk still hadn't recovered from his immense shock. The gun in Kim Ha-jin's hand had a beautiful black-gold color, and its destructive power was also massive. Park Soo-hyuk admired it and praised, "That gun is amazing. Your shooting skills are also top-notch." Kim Ha-jin said modestly, "It's nothing." Suddenly, he noticed another direction. Kim Ha-jin fired another shot. Park Soo-hyuk covered his ears and cried out in fear. He asked in confusion, "What now?" Kim Ha-jin calmly explained, "There was a black pelican over there by the cliff." Park Soo-hyuk said in admiration, "You could see it from that far away?" "The cliff," Kim Ha-jin affirmed, "Of course." He used his skill and said, "With clairvoyance, a thrown stone is nothing." Then Kim Ha-jin turned to leave, announcing, "Then I'll be going on ahead." Park Soo-hyuk was surprised. He called out loudly, "Wait a minute. Wait for me." The scene shifted to the image of the black pelican and the iron bristle boar lying on top of each other. Park Soo-hyuk panted heavily and said tiredly, "Only two of them, but they are extremely heavy." Kim Ha-jin wondered, "Can we bring them back to the field?" Park Soo-hyuk muttered the options. "It's probably better to call an ambulance and pay the fee. The payment will be sent right tomorrow. Let's see, minus taxes, that leaves." Kim Ha-jin saw this and praised inwardly, as expected of Park Soo-hyuk. He really is good at his job. He shook his hand and agreed. "Yes, let's do that. I look forward to working with you again in the future." Park Soo-hyuk said politely, "I should be the one saying that." He asked with some curiosity, "You said this is your first hunting trip, right? May I ask what you plan to use the profits for?" Kim Ha-jin replied nonchalantly, "Stocks." In his heart, Park Soo-hyuk suddenly shattered. He couldn't believe his ears. Kim Ha-jin researched. The new guild, Packhorse Master. Because the guild consists of jinns, it plays a quite important role in the story. He used his laptop and thought, of course, that's not what I'm paying attention to right now, but the dungeon this guild conquered in the story. He remembered an important piece of information, is the Suwon Devil's Lair. After that time, Packhorse Master's stock price skyrocketed by nearly 1,000%. Kim Ha-jin was extremely confident. Just buying them is a guaranteed way to make money. There's no better way to make money. He clicked the buy button on the screen. The screen displayed a green checkmark, proving he had bought the stocks with $3,000. Kim Ha-jin monologued to himself. That should be enough, right? He asked himself aloud. Where else can I find useful information about stocks? There isn't much information on public forums. So if I'm going to search for anything, I should look on the dark web, Violet Banquet. Suddenly, Kim Ha-jin remembered something. He told himself, speaking of the dark web, it reminds me of the Chameleon Troupe, the main villains until the middle of the story. A criminal organization whose members' true identities are unknown to anyone except their aliases. I, the author, am probably the only one who knows about them and their activities. He calculated in his head, the Chameleon Troupe are criminals, but they don't like jinns. So if I can somehow get acquainted with the leader of that troupe, maybe I can get help sending Chai Jin-yoon to his ancestors. Thinking of doing it, Kim Ha-jin continued to ponder the plot. Let's see. According to the story, there should be a vacant position in the Chameleon Troupe right now, meaning they are about to make a move. Suddenly, his laptop screen went pitch black. Kim Ha-jin didn't understand what was happening. What is this? Why is it all black? He worried inwardly. No, this is probably the only way to return to my world. The laptop screen lit up again. Kim Ha-jin rejoiced. It's back on. The screen displayed. 1 month has passed. A notification popped up. The laptop's functions will be updated. Progress, 0.01%. On another side, in a small cafe, the customers were sitting, blushing, and whispering to each other. Look over there. Oh my, is he a celebrity? It turned out to be Shin Jong-hak sitting and talking with Yuna. He complained in frustration. This is so annoying. Can we stop with these noble gatherings? Yuna smiled and advised, just bear with it. Getting close to the club leaders won't hurt. Don't you think so? She asked, how are their grades lately? Shin Jong-hak answered briefly, long enough. Yuna smiled and replied, the Jong-hak I know is only satisfied with first place. He looked down at the 3D screen and said, that's why I said it's enough. Yuna didn't ask further and just said, all right. Suddenly, the cafe door opened. Chai Nayun walked inside. Yuna called out, Nayun, over here. Seeing her, Shin Jong-hak happily jumped up and called, Nayun. He hurriedly walked over and asked, why did you come to this gathering? Chai Nayun clicked her tongue. What? If I knew you were coming, I wouldn't have come. Shin Jong-hak asked, I heard you went to the hospital. Are you okay? Chai Nayun replied dismissively, it's nothing. Don't make a big deal out of it. Yuna just silently listened to their conversation. At this moment, Chai Nayun suddenly spoke up. Right? I have something to discuss. She asked seriously, do you two know a guy named Kim Ha-jin? Hearing this name, Yuna was startled. She quickly looked up and asked, Kim Ha-jin? What about him? Chai Nayun slowly recounted. You know about the Jin incident at the museum, right? At that time, it was me, Kim Suho, and that guy. The three of us. She continued recounting her experience. The Jin was stronger than expected. So, we had to go all out to fight. Then Nayun said in horror, but that bastard. Recalling the moment the Jin's arm was obliterated. She shuddered at the memory. Does it make any sense? He blew off a Jin's arm with a cadet's weapon. Looking at Kim Ha-jin's face at that time, Nayun affirmed, very suspicious. Suddenly, after finishing her story, she turned to ask Yuna. Come to think of it, wasn't he on your team, Yuna? What do you think of him? Being called out, Yuna startled. Me? In the past. Grew up in an orphanage. Is a cube cadet. Has a debt of about $300,000. Those were the details regarding Cadet Kim Ha-jin. I still don't know how he managed to find out the mountain tyrant's weakness. It turned out Yuna had someone investigate Kim Ha-jin. She replied to the investigator. I tried asking him, but he refused to answer me. I have no choice but to continue investigating him. She remembered when Kim Ha-jin teased her. I'm not telling. At that time, she could only curse helplessly, bastard. Yuna continued. Because I need to confirm whether he is someone worth trusting. Returning to the present, she answered vaguely. Him? Just a normal person. In her mind, Yuna analyzed, I didn't see the destructive power that could blow off a Jin's arm from his attacks during the battle with the monsters. She picked up her teacup to drink and speculated inwardly. Could it be? He's hiding something? At this moment, Chai Nayun guessed in a low voice. Could he be a Jin? Hearing her guess, both Yu Yona and Shin Jonghak froze. Yu Yona sighed helplessly. Nayun, do you really think a Jin would attack another Jin? Chai Nayun was still certain of her thought. Could that be it? There's something weird about that guy. On this side, Kim Hajin shielded his face from the light of the screen. He wondered, what exactly is this? The screen displayed, update, 98%. Suddenly, at this moment, Kim Hajin's smartwatch glowed. He cried out in pain. Kim Hajin's arm was now covered in blood. The chair was pushed over. Kim Hajin panted heavily in front of the laptop screen. Information continuously popped up. As one of the creator's powers, this stigma contains magic power. In Kim Hajin's mind, the text appeared. Every time your impact increases in a way where the total SP received exceeds a certain value, a mark of the stigma will be engraved. Kim Hajin covered his ears and thought, information is pouring into my head like a tsunami.